Regularly scheduled meeting of the Community Development and Regulatory Services for today, which is September 12th. I've been joined by everyone on the committee, including council members Cano, Quincy, Fry, Reich, and Morsame. We don't have a very long agenda, but a number of important items. I'll note first the consent agenda, which is our normal liquor, business, and gambling licenses. Item number 14, which is our MCTC student internship participation data sharing program. Great Streets Gap financing loan to PPL for the Franklin Theater project, and changes in an administrative enforcement and hearing process with regard to the appeal deadline, setting a public hearing. I'll also note in item number 13, which are the regular liquor licenses, that Penny's Coffee, noted in item number 8, has been withdrawn. We will have a public hearing on the withdrawal in the public hearing portion of the agenda, but I want to note for committee members that it will be adopted as withdrawn in item 13 should we approve the consent agenda. With that, I'll move the consent items 13, 14, 15, and 16. Are there any items anyone would like to pull? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items are approved. We'll then move to our land sale public hearings, starting with item number 1. Mr. Ramadan, welcome.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, our first one, item number 1, is 2637 Emerson Avenue North, the sale through the Minneapolis Homes Program policies for the program established by the City Council on December 11th, 2015. 2637 Emerson Avenue North was acquired on July 26, 2012 from Hennepin County as tax forfeited land for an appraised value of $1. The staff marketed and reviewed applications received in accordance with the manual, and we're recommending the sale of 37 Emerson to Cordova Lynch for its appraised value of $1,000. If Cordova fails to close on the property, we are recommending as an alternate CTW Group for $1,000, again subject to conditions. The property was constructed in 1910 as a 1,596 square foot, 2-bedroom, 1-bath, single-family home. Cordova Lynch intends to invest $76,000 to rehabilitate the property as a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, single-family home, for which he will be the owner-occupant. Mr. Lynch expects to save on labor costs through engaging in the service of a federally funded program that trains ex-offenders in construction trades. CTW Group proposes to invest $110,000 to rehabilitate the property as a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, single-family home to be sold exclusively to owner-occupants. The Hawthorne Neighborhood Council received notification on May 12, 2017, and recommended Mr. Cordova Lynch. Unfortunately, Mr. Lynch is not able to be here today. He had to be at work, so if there are any questions, Madam Chair.
Are there any questions for Mr. Ramadan on item number 1? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing on item number 1, which is a land sale at 2637 Emerson Avenue North. Is there anyone here to speak to this issue? Anyone? Anyone? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Councilmember Quincy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move approval of item number 1.
Item number 1 has been moved. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item is approved. On to item number 2, Mr. Ramadan.
Someone grabbed my seat while I wasn't looking. Okay, next we've got 2923 3rd Street North. Again, the sale through the Minneapolis Homes policies for the program established by the City Council on December 11th. 2923 3rd Street was acquired on June 22nd, 2016 from Hennepin County as tax forfeited land for its appraised value of $5,000. The staff reviewed applications and are recommending Magnolia Homes LLC for its appraised value of $5,000, subject to conditions. And if Magnolia fails to close, to approve the sale of 2923 3rd Street North to CTW Group for $5,000, subject to conditions. The property was constructed in 1904 and is a 2,292 square foot, 3-bedroom, 1-bath, single-family home. Magnolia Homes LLC intends to invest $889 to rehabilitate the property as a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, single-family home to be sold exclusively to owner-occupants. CTW Group proposes to invest $135,000 to rehabilitate the property as a 3-bedroom, 1-bath to be sold exclusively to owner-occupants. The Hawthorne Neighborhood Group also received notification for this property on May 12th, but did not provide any comments on this property. Joseph Alex Frank, representing Magnolia Homes, is actually here today with us and is available also to answer any questions. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions for Mr. Ramadan on item number 2? Seeing none, thank you for your report. We'll open the public hearing on item number 2, which is a land sale at 2923 3rd Avenue North. Is there anyone here to speak to this issue? Anyone? Are you Mr. Magnolia Homes?
Yes, I am.
Great. Step forward. Tell us a little bit about what you're going to do.
Just quickly, looking forward to working with the city on this particular property. Yes, my team, part of my team actually is here. My GC and my real estate agent to look at this. I think we're excited about bringing it back to market in a positive way for the community.
Well, thank you for being here today. Thank you for your offer. Is there anyone else here to speak to this issue? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Councilmember Quincy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move the land sale for item number 2.
Item number 2 has been moved for approval. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item is approved. We'll move on to item number 3. Mr. Ramadan.
All right. Number 3, 606 33rd Avenue North. This was acquired on January 18, 2017 from Hennepin County as tax forfeited land for its appraised value of $15,000. The staff market, we only received one application for this, and we're recommending 606 33rd Avenue North to CTW Group for $15,000 subject to conditions. The property was constructed in 1908 and is a 2,715 square foot, 4-bedroom, 2-bath duplex. CTW Group proposes to invest $110,500 to rehabilitate the property as a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, single-family home to be sold exclusively to owner-occupants. The McKinley community received notification on May 12th, but did not provide any comments on this property. I see Olga Allen, representing CTW Group, is here today and is available to answer questions from the committee. Are there any questions of me?
Seeing none, thank you for your report. We'll open the public hearing on item number 3, which is a land sale at 606 33rd Avenue North. Is there anyone here to speak to this issue?
Just quickly, I'm representing CTW Group Incorporation, and we're a long time on the market, more than 10 years, and it's not our first project together with City of Minneapolis, and we're very, very appreciate and very glad to participate in this program, and hopefully we will make together a community better.
Thank you for being here today. Is there anyone else here to speak to this issue? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Councilmember Fry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Proud to move approval.
Approval has been moved of item number 3. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item is approved. We'll move on then to item number 4. Ms. Peral, welcome.
Welcome. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and council members. I'm before you today with a land sale report approving the disposition of property at 695 and 699 Lowry Avenue Northeast. Hennepin County acquired the 2 parcels through tax forfeiture, and together with the city, we issued a request for proposals for their redevelopment. In April of this year, the city staff recommended and council approved working exclusively with the California Building Company on their proposal to reactivate the entire building as a mixed-use project with artist studios and a second-floor apartment. Properties will be owned by an LLC real estate holding company, which is owned by 4 partners. That includes Josh Blanc and Lael McDill, who together own Clay Squared to Affinity, a handmade tile and polymer clay sculpture studio and showroom, as well as Malcolm Potek and Karen Van Wyck, who together own Potek Glass, a glassmaking and teaching studio. The project will have many positive effects in the community, including reactivating the long vacant commercial storefront and adding artist-owned studio space along the northern edge of the Northeast Minneapolis Arts District. I'd like to acknowledge today that there are representatives here both from California Building Company and from the LLC ownership. We have Josh Blanc and Lael McDill, as well as Malcolm Potek and John Kramer and Jennifer Young from the California Building Company. If there are any questions, I'm available to take them.
Are there any questions for Ms. Peral? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing on item number 4, which is a land sale at 695 Lowry Avenue Northeast and 699 Lowry Avenue Northeast. Would anyone who's here like to speak to this issue? Okay, John, come on up and tell everybody what great work you do. Yes, you. I mean, you have a long, long history in the city of doing amazing work. Just tell everybody.
And you love to talk. So.
And what?
And you usually love to talk. So it's here.
Not today.
Otherwise, I'm going to ask Jennifer to come up.
Jennifer's much better at it.
Come on,
this
Jennifer.
will be a nice addition to the Arts District, especially because 2 different groups of artists are going to own the property. So that's part of our Arts District mission that goes back decades for sustainability, for shareholders in the community that can be long-term and help build the district that many of you have been a big part of facilitating and helping over the decades. So we're just the closer. We're just steering the ship We did this for the Ritz Theater in the Valley of the Dolls on 13th. So we're just got the hand on the tiller and going to help the thing move forward from A to Z. So that's our role, and what we do is pretty clear for folks who've seen the product, and it's going to be another piece of that.
You're very modest. Thank you for being here today. Is there anyone else on the team who'd like to say something? You're welcome to. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. Councilmember Reich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think modesty is definitely a way to capture what's being done here. As mentioned in the report, this is an extension of the Arts District to the northern frontier, Lowry Avenue, where there's really no active presence of the Arts District. This is kind of the first one to mark out that space, and maybe more to come. It also should be noted that this isn't just an extension and an addition to the Arts District, a very welcome one at that, but this could be the beginning of what could be the DNA for the preservation long-term of the Arts District, artists owning their own space. So if this can work, and of course it's going to be with artists, but with very experienced hand of the California group, I think we might have a blueprint for something that will knock out a concern that's always been a concern of every arts district in the nation has been created. How long will it last? And so I think here we've got at least a first answer and hopefully a definitive one.
Are you moving approval?
I am, Madam Chair.
On the motion to approve, Councilmember Frye.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I do agree that John was being quite modest. You know, the country's #1 arts district and Northeast Arts District was ranked the #1 arts district in the entire country. It doesn't happen by accident. It happens through, in some cases, decades of work, investment when it didn't seem feasible, and people sticking their neck out when it may have very well have gotten chopped off. And in this case, I'm proud to say that it didn't, whether it was the Kramer's investment or the California building or Malcolm doing some extraordinary work with glass, or anyone who has been involved on an incessant level in making sure that Northeast is more than just a collection of single-family homes. You know, it's got a beautiful, unique culture, and I'm proud to see that so the borderline is Lowry technically right now. So, Councilmember Reich, you're right. We are sort of extending that boundary in a wonderful way, and it is the next frontier. So, Councilmember, thank you for your work. Thank you for all of your work. I think it's really exciting.
On the motion to approve, any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item is approved. Thank you all for being here today. We'll move on then to our licensing agenda, starting with item number 5. Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, committee members. We have an application by El Nuevo Miramar, Inc., doing business as El Nuevo Miramar. They seek to locate at 501 East Lake Street, and they are seeking an on-sale liquor license with Sunday sales, Class B. This particular address is a newly constructed 2-story building, and there have not been licensed alcohol uses there previously. This is in the central neighborhood in Ward 9. There are no additional off-street parking requirements for this particular restaurant. They will have seating for 50 persons indoors and no outdoor area at this time. They intend to be open from 9 a.m. to 2 a.m. And they will have food service all hours of their operation. The sole owner is Edgar Penaloza, and he has experience in the restaurant business, and he has owned Las Portales restaurant at 417 East Lake for a number of years. This will be a full-service restaurant. A public hearing is required for this application's approval. We notified all residents and property owners within 600 feet of this premises of today's public hearing. We also notified the Central Area Neighborhood Association, Central Area Neighborhood Development Organization, and the Lake Street Council. We received one response from that mailing, and that response was in support. Staff finds that they meet all of our requirements and are recommending the application be approved.
Are there any questions for Mr. Wilson on item number 5? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing on item number 5, which is a new business license for El Nuevo Miramar. Is there anyone here to speak to this issue? Please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
Chair, members of the committee, my name is Luis Caro. I work mainly with Hispanic businesses, helping them in licensing. And Edgar Penaloza couldn't make it today. He had to go to the university with his daughter, a medical issue. But I just want to reassure you that, and I know I just want to reassure you that Mr. Penaloza is a stable young man, a good business person, very smart, born and raised in the city of Mexico, and he's bringing in different cultural values, and he wants to start a real nice, formal Mexican restaurant. And that's basically his goal, to do that right now. And, I just hope you support him, but I think he's a good candidate.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being
Okay.
here today. Is there anyone else here to speak to this issue? Anyone? Anyone? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Councilmember Cano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to move this forward.
Item number 5 has been moved for approval. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That item is approved. We'll move then on to item number 6. Mr. Wilson.
Madam Chair, we have an application by 5 Watt Miller Textile LLC for a property at 861 Hennepin Avenue East. They intend to do business as 5 Watt Coffee. They are seeking an on-sale wine and strong beer license Class D for both an interior operations and an outside patio area. This is in the Beltrami neighborhood in Ward 3. The property is all zoned industrial. They will have seating on the inside for 60 persons and outside for 40. They plan to be open from 6 a.m. to 1 a.m. daily. The applicant, 5 Watt Miller Textile LLC, is a Minnesota company formed in July of 2015. Principal owners are Caleb Garn, Alex Giese, Lee Garter, Sean Person, Russell Levison. A public hearing is required because there's not been an alcohol license at this site before. We notified all persons and property owners within 600 feet and the Beltrami Neighborhood Council and the Northeast River, Minneapolis River District. We received no responses for or against the application. Staff's recommendation is the application be approved.
Are there any questions for Mr. Wilson on the new license on item number 5? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing on item number 5, which is a new business license for 5 Watt Coffee. Is there anyone here to speak to this issue? Please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Caleb Garn, one of the owners of 5 Watt Coffee. Thank you, committee and chairperson, for letting us be here today. 861 East Hennepin is the address of where we're applying for the license. So we've had a lot of success in South Minneapolis in the Kingfield neighborhood, where we don't have a beer and wine license. We saw a vast desert and need in the Beltrami neighborhood for more coffee and a beer and wine license. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for being here today. Is there anyone else here to speak to this issue? Anyone? Anyone? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Councilmember Fry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm happy to move approval of this item, and I'm happy that 5 Watt Coffee is filling in that desert with an oasis of both caffeine and alcohol. It will be an important addition to the neighborhood, and a neighborhood that I'll point out that used to be, in many ways, forgotten. It's wedged between Central, Broadway, and the railroad tracks, but it's really a quaint and beautiful place with a park there. The old Delmonico's is there. Will hopefully shortly be opening very soon, and now we've got a plethora of beer and coffee options as well. So I'm really proud you're moving in there. Thank you for the investment. I move approval.
On the motion to approve, Councilmember Reich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will agree that Beltrami, the old Italian enclave in northeast Minneapolis, is a charming neighborhood. And in some ways, a forgotten neighborhood is one of the best ways to keep its charm. But you want the amenities too. And given that you still have bocce clubs there and that long Italian history, you're going to really have to step up with your espresso.
On the motion to approve, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item is approved. We'll move on to item number 7. Mr. Wilson.
Madam Chair, the next application is for an on-sale liquor license with Sunday sales Class E for a property at 2121 University Avenue Northeast. Our applicant is Hi Hi LLC. They plan to do business as Hi Hi Restaurant. This address formerly housed the 22nd Avenue Station Saloon for many, many years. A complete renovation of that building is currently underway. This is in the Holland neighborhood in Ward 1. This will be a full-service restaurant. They plan to be open from 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. daily. Hi Hi LLC is a Minnesota company formed in in 2017, and the owners are Christina Nguyen and Burke Gruden. Ms. Nguyen has 6 years of experience in the food service industry locally, and she has owned and operated a food truck in Minneapolis since 2011 till present, and she has owned and operated the Ola Arepa restaurant in Minneapolis from 2014 till present. A public hearing is required because they are expanding to an outdoor patio, which the former licensee did not have. So we notified all persons within 600 feet of the premises of today's public hearing. We notified the Holland Neighborhood Association and the Northeast Minneapolis River District. We received 5 responses from that mailing process, and all 5 of the responses were in support of the application. Staff is also in support of the application and recommends that it be approved.
Are there any questions for Mr. Wilson on item number 7? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing on item number 7, which is a new business license for Hi Hi on University Avenue Northeast. Is there anyone here to speak to this issue? Come on up, state your name and address for the record.
I'm Burke Grudem. This is Christina Nguyen. We're the owners of Ola Arepa in South Minneapolis and soon to be owners of Hi Hi in Northeast Minneapolis. Thank you for your time today. We're just super excited to take over that property and basically bring our Southeast Asian street food concept there, and just excited to be part of that neighborhood. It's something we've been wanting to do for a number of years now. So I just want to say thank you for your time. And
Thank you for being here today. It's really fun, actually, to get to meet you because you were the pioneers in the food truck movement. You were one of 10 original food trucks in the city and turned into a bricks and mortar. So you're really, truly a very big success story in the city. And now you're expanding again. Congratulations to you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here who'd like to speak to this issue? Anyone? Anyone? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Councilmember Reich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is clearly an example of a 180 in terms of repurposing a building. I won't go into the long storied history of the previous establishment. I think you can go to City Pages archives and get a lot of verbiage around that. But the money that you guys are putting in the investment is incredible. And I think the outcome is what we seek. And of course, what the neighbors are all saying is, wow, they really are double downing on what Northeast can be for a business. And we deeply appreciate that. It's a great corner, a very active area. You've got a lot of neighbors who do a lot of fun things. And I think you're just going to be a real centerpiece for that very fun part of lower Northeast Minneapolis. So thank you for your investment and your participation.
Further comments or questions? Seeing none on the motion to approve, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item is approved. Thank you for being here today. We'll move on to item number 8. Mr. Wilson. Given that this has been withdrawn, I don't believe we need a staff report. Do you feel the need to give a staff report?
Madam Chair, I don't think so. I was just going to announce that this is Penny's Coffee. They applied for a on-sale wine and beer license at 3509 West 44th Street, and this morning this license was withdrawn.
Okay, so we'll open the public hearing on item number 8 because it's been posted and noticed as a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak to this issue? Please step forward. State your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Jamie Gregg. I own the adjoining barber shop, Buzz Barbers, to this new coffee shop in our area. The first one you'll hear today, slightly against something.
You know it's been withdrawn.
I do. Just wanted to voice my opinion if it matters in the future, because I assume this will come up again. I've been in my spot 8.5 years. I think they've been in existence maybe 3 weeks, and we've run into a parking traffic jam. 2 streets in front of us, both sides, a semi that parks in the middle of busy 44th Street once or twice a week, which has almost caused multiple accidents we've witnessed firsthand. Just a traffic nightmare. I rent my spot, and my building owner has talked about talking to the city possibly about moving forward on what we have to do in the first step to look into 1-hour parking meters. It's that bad over there, but I just want to get my 2 cents in. We may be back again if this does get brought up again. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else here to speak to this issue? Anyone? Anyone? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. I'll note that this item has been withdrawn. I don't believe we need to have a vote on a withdrawal. That sounds correct. So we'll move on to item number 8. Mr. Wilson with Nolo's Kitchen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have an application from the Maytag Project, LLC. doing business as Nolo's Kitchen and Bar for a site at 515 Washington Avenue North. They're seeking an on-sale liquor license with Sunday sales, Class E. This is in the North Loop neighborhood in Ward 3. They will have interior seating for 133 persons and outside seating on a private patio for 16 persons. Maytag Project LLC is a Minnesota company formed in November of 2016. Principals are Martin Collins, Brett Johnson, and Peter Hoff. All these gentlemen have experience with other restaurants in the Twin Cities area, including some from the Blue Plate, McLeod's, and Zalo. The proposed premises contains 4,591 gross square floor feet on a newly remodeled Gardner hardware building. A public hearing is required since there's not been an alcohol license here before, so we notified all residents and property owners within 400 feet of the premises. Also notified the North Loop Neighborhood Association, Downtown Minneapolis Neighborhood Association, and the Warehouse District Business Association. We received one response from that mailing, and it was in support of the application. Staff is recommending approval. And Madam Chair, the next item on the agenda is the exact same ownership group going in the exact same building. They're just putting another liquor license in the basement with a new trade name called the Basement Bar. Same ownership. There will be a Class B license in that area, so it will have a nightclub feel. The upstairs will have a restaurant feel. Staff's recommending approval of both applications.
Are there any questions for Mr. Wilson on items number 9 and 10? Seeing none, we'll open up the public hearing on items number 9 and 10, which is Nolo's Kitchen and Bar, which is a new business, as well as the Basement Bar, both at 511 Washington Avenue North. Is there anyone here to speak to this issue? Please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Peter Hoff, 515 Washington Avenue North. We're very excited about being able to take over the old Gardner hardware building and really turn it into a space for the community. From our guests, from all our purveyors and vendors that will be using locally sourced farms, other smaller companies located within Minneapolis. We're really excited to be able to contribute back to the neighborhood for our guests and for the rest of the businesses and really be a community place. Any questions?
Are there any questions? Seeing none.
Thanks.
We'll see if there's anyone else here to speak to this issue. Please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
Hello, I'm David O'Hara, 345 6th Avenue North. I'm just a couple blocks away, and I'm very supportive of the notion of a live music venue. My only concern is to make sure that security issues are addressed because, as you're aware, some other downtown venues and clubs have had problems, particularly at closing time. And so if you do a great job, I'll be one of your most loyal customers, but I just want to make sure that the security issues are addressed. So
Thank you
very
for
much.
your testimony. Is there anyone else here to speak to this issue? Anyone? Anyone? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Councilmember Fry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm happy to move approval of this item. I'm excited about the repurposing of the Gardner Hardware Building, which is really a beautiful structure. And I'm even more pumped that you're using both that first floor as well as the basement. As you walk through North Loop, it's got kind of this unique character where the ground floor is actually midway. I'm not sure if the Gardner Hardware store is that way. I'm trying to think of it, but the ground floor is midway between the basement floor and the first floor. So in other words, you got to take a few steps up to go to the first floor and a few steps down to go to the basement. I think Gardner is that way as well, which actually opens up this whole just a range of possibilities as to what you can do with the basement. So your basement bar is a perfect example. I think parlor is another one, and I think it's kind of an exciting feel. So really excited with what you guys are doing with it. Thank you for your investment. I move approval on both.
Yeah, well, the motion is to approve items both 9 and 10. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I will note that they do have a filed security plan in place. So we just don't disclose that kind of thing, but they do have that just so we can acknowledge that for you. Thank you. We'll then move on to our last remaining public hearing item is item number 11. Who is presenting this? Oh, good, Amelia. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Madam Chair and committee members, I'm Lieutenant Amelia Huffman from the Minneapolis Police Department's Licensing and Financial Crimes Unit. And the ordinance change before you today is regarding the regulation of charitable gambling premise permits in Chapter 268. At the end of 2016, staff were asked to examine potential changes in the Minneapolis ordinance outlining requirements for nonprofit organizations seeking charitable gambling premise permits in order to strengthen the requirement that charitable gambling activities in Minneapolis primarily benefit programs within and residents of Minneapolis. The proposed language would require that each charitable gambling organization expend at least 80% of its net proceeds from Minneapolis gambling locations at city locations and for purposes which benefit programs or activities occurring in the city trade area. This proposed change is modeled on the charitable gambling ordinance in St. Paul, where organizations are required to expend at least 75% of net proceeds to or for the benefit of St. Paul activities and programs. The current ordinance language sets eligibility criteria to obtain a premise permit to include a 3-year history of substantial services performed and substantial charitable funds spent within the city of Minneapolis or on behalf of Minneapolis residents, but the term substantial isn't defined in any further way. This new ordinance language would strengthen the ongoing benefits provided by charitable gambling to the Minneapolis community. There are currently 17 charitable gambling organizations with approved premise permits operating in Minneapolis that will be affected by this change. These organizations were notified of the proposed language change, and I received no responses. I'll stand for any questions you may have.
Are there any questions for Lieutenant Huffman on her report? Seeing none, thank you for being here today, and thank you for doing all of this work. Is there anyone here to speak to this issue? This is a public hearing. If there's anyone here to speak to this issue, now would be a good time. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Councilmember Reich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll move approval and comment that the staff did do great work on this. I think the premise of making sure that the activities of the city benefit the people of the city is a premise that I concur with, and I think the language establishes that very clearly in ordinance. So appreciate the work.
On Councilmember Reich's motion to approve, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item is approved. We have 2 remaining items on our agenda. They're both quasi-judicial public hearings. Councilmember Fry chairs quasi-judicial public hearings, so I will turn the chair over to him.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have 2 items, 12 and then 12A. 12 is already on your agenda, and 12A is not printed on the agenda, but you should have in front of you on paper. Item number 12 is in order to raise and remove Building 55336 from Lindale Avenue South. And here to present today is Mr. Wilson? No, I'm sorry. Go for it.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Wayne Murphy. I'm an inspector with the Regulatory Services. I'm here today to present the findings of the Nuisance Condition Process Review Panel to uphold the director's order to approve staff recommendations for the demolition of the property located at 5336 Lindale Avenue South. A little background on this property. There was a fire that occurred January 24th of 2013. On March 17, 2017, a director's order to raise the property was sent to William Graham. In the appeal filed by Mr. Graham, he stated the construction was delayed due to the passing of the previous owner prior to transferring the title. The problem was remediated and continuance of the project would be able to proceed. The matter came before the Nuisance Condition Process Review Panel on May 11, 2017, and again on July 20th of 2017. The property located at 5336 Lindale Avenue South was a commercial building that contained Beek's Pizza and Diamond Lake Rental. It is located within the Lyndhurst neighborhood, and the original structure was a 1-story commercial building built in 1925. The building was substantially demolished and removed as of July 2014. Since then, it has remained essentially a fenced hole extending over the entire lot. The building permit was issued on January 4th, 2016 to construct a new building at the property. Some foundation work was performed, but the project was stalled. The building permit was canceled on March 6th of 2017. At the July 2017 hearing, the owner, Mr. Graham, indicated that he could not proceed with the project based upon medical and health issues in his family. However, he signed a purchase agreement to sell the property That sale is to occur in October. The proposed purchasers planned on a project that would be a mixed use but did not have finished plans for the property at that hearing. The estimated cost to remove the portions of the remaining foundation walls, fill the hole, grade the lot, and establish vegetation is between $40,000 to $50,000. CPED contract appraiser has determined the estimated lot value is $30 per square foot, or $203,460. The Lyndhurst Neighborhood Association and the owner of the properties within 350 feet of the property were mailed requests for community impact statements. The department received 8 responses. They stated the property has a negative impact on the community, that it should be demolished and the hole filled unless something can be constructed soon on the property. The nuisance condition process review panel recommends that the property located at 5336 Lindale Avenue South be demolished so that it no longer constitutes a nuisance condition. As of this morning, we did receive a phone call from the owner, Mr. Graham, stating he does have financing in place right now and he would like to continue on, but we have not seen any paperwork or any documentation that the nuisance panel has asked for. I do see he is in the audience at this time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Starry. Any further questions for staff at this point? Mr. Quincy, Councilmember Quincy.
Thank you, Councilmember Fry. I was curious. Obviously, this is right across the street from the 11th Ward. It impacts greatly the folks in Tangletown as well as the Lyndhurst neighborhood. When you were saying that Mr. Graham has received financing, is that for his project, or is that financing through the sale pending in October?
I believe that is for his financing. His plan right now is to move forward on his own.
On his own. So there is no plan to do the sale that was pending in October if he's withdrawing that?
From what I understand from the conversation, no, he's going to move on his own.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any further questions for staff at this time? Seeing none, thank you. And I will open the public hearing on this topic. The rules is that we've already had an administrative law judge hearings and previous quasi-judicial hearings, and so you are limited by law to only the testimony that has been presented before during the previous hearings. So we may not hear, you may not say, and we may not consider any additional testimony or evidence. You are limited to the details and facts that have already been presented, but you're certainly able to make clarifications. So having laid that groundwork, is either the individual and or their representative here today to speak? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bill Graham. I'm the owner of the 5336 Lindale Avenue property.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you for having me. Back in May, we had a hearing, and at that time, we did have intention of continuing with the project as it was. It was within a few weeks of that my wife was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and so at that point we changed direction and we sought out some local developers who we did sign a purchase agreement with to move forward with the project to sell. In the interim, unfortunately, it became clear that they were looking for something a little bit larger than what was available there, and they needed to acquire the parking space in between our lot and the animal clinic. And we, having spoken with them, it became clear that they weren't going to be able to do the project in a timely fashion. And because of that, we felt that it was just going to be more delays. And so we felt that in order to resume the project on the site, my wife and I, with her improving health, we decided to move ahead with the original project that has already been approved by the city. And so we reacquired our funding for the project, and we're prepared to move forward with the original project. We just think it's beneficial for the neighborhood to have a nice $2 million building with some businesses and some housing that, again, has already been approved by the city, rather than have a vacant lot that won't improve the value of the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. We've owned the business, been in the neighborhood for a couple of decades, so we're integrally involved and have many friends and neighbors and customers in Lyndhurst, Tangletown, Kenny. So we feel a personal connection to the neighborhood, and we feel that it's important to move forward, and that's why we, once the contract with the developers expired, we felt that it was important to move ahead with the project that we had originally designed. And our project manager feels that we're, with the city's blessing, if we can reinstate, I spoke with Scott Bacchus this morning and mentioned that if we can reinstate the permits that were originally granted, we could get started as early as next week. We could start Monday morning and get this project rolling, and then we would alleviate the eyesore and create something really nice, and that would be an improvement to the neighborhood rather than just turning it into an empty lot that would be of no benefit to anyone.
Thank you.
The only other thing I'd like to mention is I looked up property taxes. If there's a financial end to this, the property tax revenue derived on this lot as it sits is about $3,000 a year. The building that we have proposed would be easily over $40,000 a year, which would obviously be a benefit. And I think that the housing in the neighborhood, I'm sure the neighbors would agree, that their property values would increase with a nice new project in there.
Thank you. So how far away are you from kind of a final deal where staff can receive any necessary documents?
To complete it?
Mm-hmm.
We could have it capped and have the parking lot repaved by the end of October.
So anything further for
That's provided we can start right away. If the permits are reissued, we
sure.
can get started right away.
So I just have a couple quick questions for staff, sure, if you don't mind.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Starr, am I right on that, or?
No, sir. My name is Mr. Murphy.
Oh, I'm sorry. They had the wrong name here on the agenda. My apologies, Mr. Murphy.
No problem.
So, Mr. Murphy, you had mentioned early on at the beginning that there were certain documents that had still not been provided yet. Can you tell me again what those documents are?
The nuisance condition process review panel had asked for documentation, approved plans, timelines, proof of financing, mm-hmm, things of that nature.
Okay.
None of that has been provided at this time except for the approved plans.
Okay. So do we have the capability of getting the approved plans, the financing, and okay. Okay. And Mr. Murphy, so assuming that those documents are forwarded, would we have the ability to continue moving forward without being too far out of conformance?
We would be able to move forward as long as we had a timeline that was acceptable.
Okay.
Right now, the staff has put a lot of time and effort into this, and
mm-hmm,
it has been a fire damage building for almost 5 years.
For quite some time.
So,
yeah, that makes sense. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Is anybody else here to comment on behalf of the owner or the owner's representative? I'm assuming no, since you are the only one. So I will close the public hearing. Do any of my colleagues have any additional comments? I have a couple. So what I'm going to do is move the item forward to the full council without recommendation. In the interim period between now and next Friday, if you could forward the necessary documents, assuming that you do forward the necessary documents, then we will give you the additional time to complete the project. I think that makes more sense, as you outlined, A whole lot of work has been done. No, it has not been done in an extremely timely fashion, but things do come up and life happens, and we'd like to see you be able to continue. Not to mention that we don't want to spend between $50,000 some odd dollars in filling in the hole and providing additional landscaping. So, assuming that is, I will move to do exactly that. Councilmember Quincy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would concur. I thought that was a good solution. Obviously, we're interested in improving the area and developing this thing. We understand it's been a significant strain on your own family as well as the business, but the community as well. So having this as the most expedient way to get a project completed, I think, is in the best interest of the city. So I would support that motion, and putting a timeline on it for the next council meeting seems appropriate. Otherwise, the director's orders would be to raise the building. That would be under consideration for Friday's council meeting.
Yep.
So this seems appropriate action without a recommendation. I'm supportive of that.
Excellent. Also, thank you, and thank you to staff for their work and your investment as well. We appreciate it. And so the motion is on the table. All those in approval, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. That item passes. It's to be forwarded to council without recommendation. Only one final item, which is item 12A. Which is the Orchid Massage Spa. It's considering the request for a stay of the denial of the massage and bodywork establishment license pending appeal to the Minnesota Court of Appeals, submitted by Julia Wang and Orchid Massage Spa. I'm here to present. This time is Mr. Wilson and Mr. Fussy. I'm not getting any of these right today, my God.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair and committee members. I'll try to be brief. As you recall, during the previous cycle, you voted to deny renewal of the massage and bodywork license held by Orchid Massage out of the 12th Ward. The licensee, through its counsel, as is their right, has indicated that it will pursue review of that decision in the Minnesota Court of Appeals, and the appellate court rules permit the licensee to request the stay of the license denial pending the appeal. In these sorts of cases, the appellate court process usually takes in excess of 6 months to run its course. The appellate court requires that the licensee requesting a stay first make such a request directly to the city council before the appellate court will rule upon it. Therefore, this matter has been added to today's agenda, and it would be appropriate to hear brief argument from each side on the request. The legal standard that governs the decision that you must make on the stay request before you is from a St. Paul case, DRJ Incorporated versus City of St. Paul from 2007. And that case held that when local governmental units exercise their licensing authority, they must determine whether continued operations will be detrimental to the public good or the public interest. The decision also noted the strong judicial deference afforded to the discretion of city councils in determining whether to revoke or deny business licenses, and concluded that the public interest and the potential risk to the public are also applicable to the issue of a stay pending appeal. The decision then laid out the legal standard that should be applied by city councils in such matters, and the decision held that, and I quote, "When determining whether or not to grant a stay pending appeal, a city council must balance the appealing party's interest in preserving the status quo so that effective relief will be available if the appeal succeeds, against the interest of the public or the prevailing party in enforcing the decision and ensuring that they remain secure in victory while the appeal is pending," end quote. Based on this standard, staff opposes the granting of a stay and requests that you deny the stay request for the following reasons. Contrary to what the licensee and its counsel have said, there is an adequate and substantial legal basis supporting the license denial. A neutral hearing officer heard the entire case and recommended not denial of the license and provided detailed findings and conclusions in support, which are part of the record in front of you. That recommendation was unanimously approved by the full city council and the mayor. Some of the violations of the massage ordinance and of the business license management responsibilities imposed by ordinance include an aggravated building code violation, and aggravated because of the extended amount of time. It was almost half a year that it took for the licensee to repair the largest and most prominent window in her business, and because of the fact that she lied about the repairs being completed. reckless and improper management of the establishment, including leaving a virtual stranger in charge of the facility during the time of an inspection by the city, admitting that massage employees and contractors of hers had in the past and might in the future engage in illicit commercial sex, and failing to comply with ordinance requirements to have employee records immediately available on site. There were also numerous observations by specially trained city staff with particularized expertise that supported a reasonable conclusion that the facility was not and would not be operated in compliance with the law and in furtherance of the public interest, including numerous indicia of a commercial sex component at the facility. The record also reflects that the surrounding residents in the neighborhood have serious and ongoing concerns with the operation of this facility. Because of this past detrimental effect on the community and the potential for continuing harm to the community and to the public interest, general welfare, and public health, I submit that such considerations outweigh the licensee's desire to preserve the status quo pending appeal, and would request that this committee deny the stay request that is in front of it. At this time, it would be appropriate to hear briefly from counsel for the licensee.
Thank you, Mr. Fussy. Can you just repeat the standard again under which we are reviewing presently?
Certainly, and I'll quote it from the DRJ versus St. Paul case, and that is, when determining whether or not to grant a stay pending appeal, a city council must balance the appealing party's interests in preserving the status quo so that effective relief would be available if the appeal succeeds, against the interest of the public or the prevailing party in enforcing the decision and ensuring that they remain secure in victory while the appeal is pending.
Thank you. I will give the licensee and or their representative an opportunity to speak here. If you will please come up, state your name and address for the record. You may start.
Good afternoon. Just a few things to say, then I want to turn something over to my client, and then I'll close up. I want to address, first off and foremost, the standard. Mr. Fussy is correct. That is the legal standard. However, the court, and I want to make sure I point out the right place, in Webster versus Hennepin County and Hennepin County Sheriff's Association, determined that the most important standard is and I want to make sure I get this correct, is that granting the stay would reduce future litigation. And more importantly, the most important standard is issuing a stay would preserve the Court of Appeals jurisdiction, preventing a significant legal issue from becoming moot during appeal. In short, what that means is this. If you shut down my client, she goes out of business, she no longer has a massage parlor, this issue becomes moot during appeal because she no longer has the business. In my opinion, this is a substantial legal issue before this council and before this committee and going to be before the Court of Appeals. The reason I asked my client to come up here, and I want to make sure the council hears this, is I want my client to address.
I just have one question. I'm sorry, I forget your name.
Case.
Mr. Case. This obviously gets into some legal technicalities, especially when we're dealing with the standard. Are you operating here as counsel and operating as an attorney for this individual?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I want to make sure my client articulates to the council specifically what would happen if the council does not grant this stay.
Yeah. Thank you for giving me the second chance to talk. And my name is Julia Juan. I'm a small business owner and I'm a hard worker. And I have 2 young children to raise. And my parents I provide living expense for my parents too. We never ever applied any government support. So without this business, I cannot afford to provide my family a living expense. Plus, there's no way I could pay the rent in time. My rent is $1,200.33, or $33. Plus, I also want to say, there's no, I have language barrier, and there's no such proof. My business never ever engaged any illegal action. I just strongly disagree that they are assuming since I'm Asia, I'm Chinese, that they're assuming the business engaged prostitution and human trafficking. I'm very upset about that. I hope the council meeting could make correction, or at least give me the chance to wait till the court final decision.
Thank you. So in closing, what I'm asking for is for 2 reasons. The first reason I addressed before my client. And this is to preserve the status quo. Let's let a court decide this. Clearly, that's where this belongs. The second reason, the reason I believe that this is such a substantial issue, is because one of the reasons this committee gave, in fact, the only reason this committee gave for wanting to deny my clients a license is simply put unsupported by substantial evidence in the record. I'm going to be very blunt. My client never once at this hearing admitted that any sexual acts or sex trafficking was going on. We provided this committee and the entire city council with a full transcript of that. It didn't happen. At the last committee meeting, Chairman Fry specifically asked the city attorneys if this was there. And Chairman Fry used it as a reason to recommend to the city to deny my client a license. A careful reading of the transcript will tell you that did not happen. So a primary reason why this committee asked to have my client's license denied is unsupported by any evidence in the record. We were not, I frankly was shocked to hear that, because I could not believe that the city's attorney's office or such distinguished panel of people didn't read the transcript and actually took that at face value. Let me be clear again. It didn't happen. It's not in the transcript. It's not true. I'm being charitable in saying that I assume it was a misreading of the transcript. That is a substantial reason why this committee recommended denying my client a license. That is going to be forefront in our appeal. We're going to have a big picture where the transcript is. It's not there. I would ask this committee to stay this matter pending appeal to correct a grave injustice and frankly, something that is just shocking to me as both a lawyer and as a citizen of the state of Minnesota. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Counselor. As an attorney in the state of Minnesota, I will add and perhaps correct the record that the previous determination was not made exclusively on one item. It was made based on the totality of the circumstances that were presented before us, and that totality ranges from the uses and the activities that were found to have been occurring in the parlor to the way that it was advertised on the back pages of several different newspapers, to the sexual, to the very explicit sexual dialogue that was happening on the pages themselves, to, of course, the testimony that was given during the administrative law judge hearing. And I could probably go on and provide another 4 or 5 examples as well. So first, I just want to correct the record. It was not one item. It was many. Mr. Fussy, I don't know if you have any of the transcript information in front of you, if you could provide any clarification to that.
Mr. Vice Chair and committee members, I can say that the transcript that was prepared by the licensee, I don't even believe is necessarily a certified transcript. I was at the hearing. I listened to the audio recording of the hearing, and pursuant to an appeal, a certified transcript will have to be ordered and prepared. I'm comfortable with my recitation that there were concessions and admissions that passed, that she had, I think, fired masseuses at her other businesses for illicit activity, and that it is possible that that activity could continue in the future in exchange for additional tips, I believe was the terminology that was used. Be that as it may, that will certainly come out in the certified transcript, and people can make their interpretations of that. I stand by the assertion that those types of that type of testimony was made, and I would also echo what you brought to the forefront, and that there were numerous other allegations that were sustained by the hearing officer as well, and also testimony that the license holder here owns and operates another business or other businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fussy. With those facts in mind, with those facts presented by the attorney, as well as the facts presented by, as well as the standard of review acknowledged by our city attorney here, I do think the right move is to deny the additional stay, and so I am Moving that we adopt the staff recommendation. All those in approval, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Mr. Fussy.
One last thing, I would request that this committee direct the Office of the City Attorney to prepare findings reflecting the decision that you just made.
And I will so direct. Does that require a vote at this point, or?
I think it'd be good to just do a quick voice vote.
So on the staff direction to prepare findings by the city attorneys, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no, and that item passes. Councilmember Goodman.
Thank you, Councilmember Fry. Seeing no further business before the committee, we are adjourned to September 26th.